For the eyes, I will be using a method I always use for my character, which is very simple. So I will create a new shader and I will call it eyes painting. Then I will add a new texture slot and create a new texture in the UV image editor. For the eyes, we'll be using a 2K map. That will be fine. And I will fill it with a slightly reddish white color. Then I will save it and go into side view to start painting. First we need to save our map and load it into the material, adding a texture, image texture, loading our eye texture. In texture paint mode, I will select a darkened reddish color, and then I will go into side view. In the option, I will make sure that occlude, cool and normals are unchecked, and I will paint through my mesh like this. I can then save this map, go into edit mode, and in the UV image editor, switch to view and click export UVs. This allows me to save the UV layout as a picture that I will make 2K also, and call these eyes UVs. I will then go in front view, orthographic view. I will create a new map that will be our mask to separate the cornea from the sclera. So I will call this eye transparent mask. And I think a 2K mask is okay, even 1K should be okay. You can switch it to pure black. And now I will save this and load it into a second node image texture. Once the file saved, I will paint a white dot onto the cornea, trying to make it as round as possible with nice and smooth edges. That's very important to have a nice gradient toward the edges, and I'm trying to figure out where the cornea stop, because this is this very border that we will have to respect. Fortunately, there is some clipping and there are some artifacts appearing while I'm painting, so that really helps me figuring out where is the border of the cornea and the sclera. So I will just make sure it's well defined and then make the rest of it really smooth. I will then create a new texture that we will call eyes veins, and this will be a black and white texture. Once I'm done, I will load it as usual, and I will paint it using classical brush, enabling the pressure for the size of the brush, and working with a very thin brush, enabling occlude, cool and normals to avoid painting through my mesh. I will paint very thin veins pattern, creating some jaggy curves all around the eyes. The benefit of using a black and white texture is that will serve as a mask for the color of the veins, but also as a bump map for them. A little mistake is that I'm letting occlude, cool and normal deactivated when I'm painting on the sides, so that I'm painting all through my mesh and I won't have to repeat this pattern on the other side of the eyes. But when I'm painting on top of it, I just disable it to avoid weird distortions. In Photoshop, I will open our eyes color, then I will open the eyes UVs we have created. I will select everything, Ctrl A, Ctrl C, reopen the eyes color, and press Ctrl Shift V to paste the eye UVs perfectly on top of the color. I will then open the iris PSD file available in the sources, select everything and paste it, and I will try to place it onto the iris UVs. Once correctly positioned, I will use the circle selection tool, group it into a folder and add a mask to this folder. I will then add a new layer, set it to overlay, and using the standard brush, I will paint a very light and greenish color upon the iris in the middle ring of it. Once I've lightened this middle ring, I will paint with a slightly darkened green color the inside and the outside of the iris. Then I will create a new layer, set it to multiply, and with a nearly black color I will be painting the outside of the iris. I can now save my document and create a PNG file so that I will be able to load into my material. Then in the properties panel, I will add a mask modifier and uncheck it because now our eyes has disappeared. And now in edit mode, I will create a new vertex group called mask. And I will assign everything but the cornea to it. Then in the modifier stack, I will select this vertex group and re-enable the mask. I will also reload the last map I have exported using Photoshop. So I just have to refresh it. And now I have this nice preview for the eyes as the cornea has disappeared using the mask. So I've also unchecked the camera for the mask because we don't want it to be rendered at any time. But now I can see the eyes of my character through the mesh here.